What you eat as a pregnant woman affects the baby inside of you. What you eat before you're pregnant has an effect not only on your child, but potentially on your grandchildren too. Vitamin B12, also called cobalamin, is one of 8 B vitamins. It is necessary for helping the body produce energy. It's one of the vitamins known as the B complex and helps with neural functions and maintaining healthy nerve cells. B12 is also important for making red blood cells, which does in partnership with folic acid or vitamin B9, also called folate. B vitamins are not water soluble, which means that our body does not store it. It's eliminated in our urine, so we need to consume it in order to keep it in our diet. It's found in animal products such as dairy, eggs, meat, fish, and shellfish. Another vitamin that women are urged to consume during pregnancy is folate or folic acid. Folate is a vitamin that occurs naturally in food, and folic acid is the synthetic form that is often added to supplements. Foods that have folic acid include nuts, beans, green leafy vegetables, and citrus fruits, as well as supplements and many fortified foods. Calcium is important for pregnant women, not only to ensure that her own bone density stays where it needs to be, but it's also important for her infant. A pregnant woman's need for calcium increases during her 3rd trimester when the fetus is growing its bones. The fetal skeleton will get what it needs to develop, even if this means that it takes from the mother's own calcium that she is using for her own bone density. Vitamin D also plays an important role in immune function. Deficiencies in vitamin D have been linked to preeclampsia in pregnant women and other associated negative outcomes in non-pregnant people. These include decreased muscle strength, increased risk of falling, increased risk from some type of cancer. There are 2 ways to get vitamin D: ingest it or expose it to your skin. Dietary sources include dairy, eggs, and yolks, salmon, cod liver oil. Most people get their vitamin D from fortified sources such as hemp milk or supplements. The other way to get vitamin D is through exposure to sun, particularly to ultraviolet B rays. Iron is another important micronutrient for mothers during pregnancy. Taking both folate and iron daily reduces the risk of anemia and iron deficiencies for themselves and low birth weight for their infant. Pregnancy is a critical time for iron because a woman's body uses it to make extra blood during pregnancy for her and her fetus. Iron also plays a role in moving oxygen from the lungs to the rest of her body and her infants. Iron comes in 2 forms: heme and non-heme iron. Non-heme iron can be found in plant foods such as rice, wheat, oats, nuts, fruits, vegetables, and supplements. It also makes up about 60% of the iron content of meat. Meat, unlike plants, also contain other types of iron. Heme iron is easily absorbed by our bodies. Non-heme iron is not absorbed as well. Most nutritional guidelines for pregnancy urge women to eat a diet that's rich in both plant and animal sources of iron. Iodine is necessary for thyroid hormone production, and deficiencies can result in neurocognitive impairments. Mother's nutritional environment when she is pregnant can influence genetic variations that have lifelong and even generational effects. Where there is more calories, fats, and sugar available, the thrifty metabolism turns those extra calories into visceral fat, increasing plaque in the arteries and excessive sugar in the bloodstream. Epigenetics is often as important as one's DNA code. It is the study of potentially heritable changes in gene expression rather than the gene code itself. Nitrates used in meat preservation and their byproducts can potentially decrease insulin production. It impairs glucose intolerance and leads to atherosclerosis, which is the hardening, narrowing of the arteries, and can lead to heart attacks, strokes, or vascular diseases. Even when adequate food supplies exist, not all calories are created equal. A diet based on empty calories, even when you're getting a lot of them. Malnutrition can either be undernutrition or overnutrition. Undernutrition means protein, energy, malnutrition, and dietary deficiencies. Symptoms include a characteristic distended belly from an enlarged liver, loss of muscle mass, failure to grow or gain weight, changes in skin pigment, chronic lethargia, unusual changes in body temperature, dehydration, anemia, pneumonia, and, in extreme cases, corneal lesions or heart failure. It's caused by severe deficiencies in macronutrients, including proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Micronutrient deficiencies include the lack of enough essential vitamins and minerals, such as iron, iodine, zinc, vitamin A and D. Micronutrient deficiencies have devastating health consequences. They're consuming a lot of calories and are consequently overweight, but they're nevertheless malnourished. Plump poverty is something that happens right around the boundary of the third and fourth nutrition transition stage, when people are coming out of a calorie-poor diet coupled with malnutrition and moving into a calorie-rich diet coupled with undernutrition due to nutrient deficiencies in the diet. Their so-called thrifty metabolism encourages a nutritional environment in the outside world that is not nutritionally restricted, and their metabolism turns those extra calories into visceral fat and excessive sugar in the bloodstream. The average daily diet consists of about 3,500 calories. Moderately active adults between the ages of 41 and 60 years old are to consume about 2,600 calories a day for men and 2,000 calories a day for women. A rise in chronic degenerative disease, such as heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, asthma, and even some types of cancer. By 1870, the Industrial Revolution, machine jobs were taking over the industry, and diets were composed of high-fat and high-sugar foods. 1950, the first prepackaged dinner became available on the market and was oven-ready chicken and turkey pot pies sold in aluminum trays. The meals were heated in an oven-safe container until 1986, when microwavable safe containers hit the market. Today, almost all TV dinners are made for the microwave, and the TV dinner industry is a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. Once the trays are filled with foods, the meals are cryogenically frozen, which decreases the chance that it will get spoiled and causes little to no damage of the shapes of the individual food pieces. This freezing process, however, is problematic because it reduces flavor, and companies add more fat, salt, sugar to the foods to compensate. In addition, some companies use food preservatives to extend the life of the product. Many humans are now obese because of the rise of fast, processed, and caloric-dense foods. Type 2 diabetes, heart disease, stroke, cancer are obesity-related conditions that are the cause of preventable death. It also affects autoimmune diseases and asthma. Increased susceptibility to allergies from suppressing the development of the immune system are from sanitized water supplies, sewer systems, and the use of antibiotics. The lack of diversity in the gut microbiome can be linked with celiac disease and gluten sensitivity of gluten-related diseases and the human microbiome. This means eating as healthy as possible with a diet that includes fresh organic plants, fermented and high-fiber foods. Exercise regularly, limiting the use of antibiotics, hand sanitizers, and antibacterial soaps. And play in nature as much as possible to help bolster your bacterial colonies. 2/3 of our brain's energy is being used to help nerve cells or neurons send signals. The rest of it's being used for basic cell health maintenance. So it's important to feed our brain the energy that it needs to properly function. The brain is also a metabolically expensive organ. While it's only about 2% of your body's weight, it consumes about 20% of your oxygen and gets about 20% of your blood flow. Energy travels to our brain via blood vessels in the form of glucose, which we get from our food. Glucose is then transported across the blood-brain barrier and produces adenosine triphosphate, which transports energy within cells for metabolism. The brain is in regular communication with the gut. There are about 100 million neurons that line our digestive system and stay in communication with the brain via your vagus nerve, which is the longest of the 12 cranial nerves. It reaches from your brainstem to the lowest part of your abdomen and touches the most major organs along the way, including the heart, lungs, and esophagus. The vagus nerve sends sensory information about the body to the brain and from the brain to the body. Our gut instincts get transferred up to our brains via the vagus nerve. The sensory information that the vagus nerve sends to the brain has been linked to moderating mood. Another way in which your stomach is linked to your behavior is when blood is diverted from other areas and supplied to the stomach, such as after a big meal to digest all of the food that you just ate. This can make you feel sleepy. Other foods that we commonly eat at big holiday meals, such as creamy and buttery mashed potatoes or pie, are high in glucose. They have what is called a high glycemic index, which is a value that is assigned to food and is based on how quickly or slowly the food in question increases blood sugar or blood glucose levels. Foods that are low in the glycemic index scale release glucose at a slow and steady output. Foods that are high on the index release glucose quickly. Insulin is a hormone that is made in the pancreas that allows our body to use the glucose from the foods we eat. The more you eat, the more insulin is released as a normal part of the digestive process. The insulin then increases the production of other compounds such as serotonin. Serotonin can affect mood and make you feel calm. It has also been said to influence social behavior, sleep patterns, memory, and even sexual desire. Remarkably, most of the body's serotonin is 80% and can be found in the gastrointestinal tract. It is the link between serotonin and our gut that might be responsible for the urge to snack. Leptin is also thought to play a critical role in appetite. It is essentially a small protein that's important for cell signaling. It is a hormone-like molecule. It is secreted by our fat cells and is responsible for sending the message to our brain that we feel full. Leptin is important for long-term regulation of energy balance by inducing weight loss. It is often called the satiation hormone. Brains sometimes respond to food in the same way that they respond to drugs. Foods such as ice cream and pizza can actually elicit cravings and trigger response that are similar to those caused by addictive drugs such as cocaine. Certain foods trigger a reward center in the brain. The trick is trying to figure out what addiction and what is pleasure from the foods that we are eating. Dopamine is able to signal feedback for predicted rewards. For example, if you see a cupcake, your brain might predict the award of consuming that cupcake and you get a flood of dopamine. If you don't eat it, however, then your dopamine levels can decrease, making you feel irritable and sad. Over time, your brain changes and the dopamine receptors are reduced, making those cupcakes less enjoyable but still craved. Cognitive defects such as increased memory loss can be linked with food. Diets that are high in saturated fat reduce cognitive processing abilities and increase the risk of neurological dysfunction.